DevCon 2024. So, it's 4 a.m. on a Sunday, the deployment hour. You guys have been prepping for this one for a while. You've got some really big features going in. There's 22 people on the call, and you're kind of sure 16 of them are asleep because, you know, they're product owners. So you take a sip of your coffee, you get ready to hit the button, and you announce, and now I'm going to hit the deploy button. When suddenly, Adam pipes up, stop, stop, stop. What is it this time? No, Gabriel forgot to get that critical bug tested. You know the one where the button is 4 pixels to the left of where it's supposed to be? That's it. That's untested code. That's no go then. Every other team on that call have their features held up because of 4 pixels. And that's just the way it goes when you all have to deploy to one app, right? Hi, I'm Tiane, software engineer with BBD since 2018. I studied game design at the University of the Witwatersrand, and I've been working on frontends since I started at BBD, primarily Angular stacks. There was a while where I did WebSphere, but who codes web frontends in Java? Sometimes I dabble in data science, but today I'm here as a front-end web developer. So I have a confession to make. That's not my story. In fact, I've never been on production support in my entire career. So I've taken things to production, took a baby application, and shipped it off into the world for the first time, and that was it. Never to be seen again. Shipped it off to someone else's harbor. So in my world, nothing ever breaks. I've never had any production incidents to wake me up. All the unit testing and automation testing I put in has always done its job, right? Okay, so let me use an analogy of something I'm a bit more familiar with then. Making a poster in school. I too was once a child. So we need to make a poster of how excited and proud we are to be South Africans or something, to show our parents what bright little angels we are. We have one piece of cardboard and everybody needs to work on it. There's always the archetypal kids. You know, the kids who are too cool to actually do anything. The kids with the helicopter parents who know everything's going to get done for them. The way too serious kid who treats every project like their entire school career depends on it. And the kid who sits in the corner and puts wood glue on their fingers and peels it off because it feels cool. Now, this might not be shocking, but I was the way too serious kid. A ball of anxiety perfectionist. And working with everyone like this was not the vibe. It's chaos. Kids are screaming because you're drawing in MySpace. There's glitter and pipe cleaners everywhere. There's a teacher desperately trying to herd cats. This is my personal nightmare. Now, it doesn't matter how soon you finish your work. You gotta wait for Bianca to stick her 2004th piece of glitter, for George's mom to drop off his custom-cut foam paper, and for Jimmy to stop sticking the wood glue on his fingers and on the macaroni instead. I would much prefer the alternative, where everyone gets their own piece of cardboard and their own space and their own table, so that we can finish at our pace and put the poster up where we think it belongs. But now we have a problem. The parents no longer get to go to one place to find the signature squiggle of their little angel. No, now they need to go to multiple places around the classroom. Our parents are the users. Now we have 2 options. We present everything in one big application for the parents' convenience. Or we make them bookmark 9 pages because it's easier for developers to build our own applications. There's always a compromise. But why can't we get clever? We can each make our own poster and stick it onto one wall. We can take this big application with everything bundled in and break it up into smaller applications, but still present it to the user as one. Enter micro frontends. Now, it's a simple concept. take these huge monoliths and break them into smaller, easily manageable chunks. So in 2011, something amazing happened for developers, back-end developers. Microservices started popping up. Giants such as Netflix and Amazon were leading the way. So we went from these huge monoliths to individualized services that can exist independent of each other but be consumed together. Happy days, right? But the front end was lagging behind. So they were looking at this situation going, why can't we have nice things? So here's our timeline. 2011, microservices pops up. A whole 5 years passed before the term micro frontend started entering the conversation. We're seeing an approach emerge that our teams call micro frontends. In this approach, a web application is broken up by its pages and features, with each feature being owned end-to-end by a single team. That was apparently the first time it was mentioned. Wow, this is such a revolutionary idea. Never heard anything like it before, right? At this point, we start looking at frameworks like Bit and SingleSpar. Now, these two follow two very different patterns, the two main patterns when talking about micro frontends. Bit followed the component-based pattern, and SingleSpar the application-based pattern. Now, component-based is when each individual team builds their features as bundles of code that are then packaged and published and consumed by a parent application, which is then served up to the user. Application-based is when each feature team builds individual applications, and using some sort of injection, that is then served up to the user via one place. Not iframes. We're not talking about iframes. And then we hit 2020. There was a paradigm shift. People who worked in a co-located office 5 days a week now had to sit home alone. Communication became harder than ever, and the need to be independent became undeniable. Luckily for us, in October of 2020, the Module Federation plugin for Webpack was released, and this one was a game changer. A plugin for the most widely used bundler, teams can now easily implement a micro frontend architecture without needing to opt into an entire framework. Now, this wasn't a new concept, as I literally just explained, but what was really cool about this was you could easily implement this into existing projects. So if you were one of those teams with all your posters stuck around the room, you can swap out your press stick for thumbtacks and stick it onto one wall. Cool. So if Module Federation was released in 2020, why am I talking about this now? Well, I was also curious about that. So I asked ChatGPT why I only heard about it in November of 2021. And this is what I got. As of my last knowledge update in September 2021, Webpack 5 had not yet been officially released. However, plans and developments in the software world can change rapidly. I recommend checking the official Webpack website, blog, or GitHub repository for the most up-to-date information on the release status of Webpack 5 and whether it has exited the beta phase. Not true. It was totally released in October of 2020, so I don't know where this came from. Okay, so if it wasn't the release date, what else helped me up? Well, we used Angular, and Angular 11 was still on experimental support for Webpack 5. Angular 12, which was released in May of 2021, was the first version with production support for Webpack 5. So November 2021, 6 months after release, yep, seems production ready. And that's when I was introduced to it. We had some familiar requirements. We had a big application with multiple teams who each needed separate release cadences. As a bonus feature, we got to incorporate existing applications into our new one, and that made business happy. So we opted to start out with Module Federation. So now it's 2021, and I've actually been introduced to it, and we go ahead and implement static Module Federation. What we do here is in the webpack config.js, we define which remotes we want to pull in, and those definitions are then bundled with the host application. And that is what is served up to the user. Now, this wasn't ideal because those definitions, when they changed, you had to rebuild your host application. And, every time you want to switch something off or switch something on or rebuild, don't really want to do that. What we wanted instead was to just build the host, and then at runtime, define what we want to pull in. That way, we only needed a config that we needed to redeploy instead of a rebuild of the whole app. So now it's 2022, and we've managed to implement dynamic module federation instead of static. As a bonus, we even generated our menu from our entry points so that you only have access to what's available. But I wanted something else. I wanted to build a dashboard with tiles that are pulled in from different applications as well, which I couldn't really do until Angular 14 in June of 2022. And then it just took a while to get accepted to DevConf. Which brings us to now, where I finally have everything that I wanted to talk about. We have the application with a dynamic menu and a dynamic dashboard, all generated at runtime out of different applications. More on that in a bit. So how does Module Federation give us these awesome things? How it works. Micro frontends are set up to bundle specific modules into a JS file, usually called remoteentry.js. The application is then deployed as normal, and you can use it the way you always have. The host application then fetches remoteentry.js at runtime and loads them up as if they were a part of the host. But the cool thing is not only having different apps, it's also sharing dependencies. So your applications will decide at runtime whether to load up a new dependency or use what's already in the browser. Now, I didn't just come with a history lesson. I brought a demo too with a friend. So I love Lego. Let's just lay it out there. So instead of building a notes and to-do app like I always do, I decided to build a Lego inventory manager because that's cooler. So this is our application. This is our host. This will not be rebuilt while I'm talking. It's beautiful. Love the shades of gray. It doesn't actually do anything, though. So we're going to add our first feature. Inventory. Sorry, I forgot which ones come first. Inventory or wishlist. Okay, so I'm just deploying a new app config.json. I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. And the new file is uploaded. And if we refresh here, you'll see here. So this is the first call that the application is actually making to retrieve something. And this is our menu config. Can you guys see? Okay. Yeah, so this is actually the model and points at the entry point, the file where our application is living. There's one for the dashboard tile, and there's also one for the list entry. Okay, so cool. Let me manage my inventory. So I've got a bonsai tree. And tranquil garden. Cool. Now, I promised you that these applications can still be used the way they always have been. It doesn't need to be used inside the host. So we've actually got the application here running all by itself. And you can see it's the exact same thing, just running somewhere else. It's pretty great. Okay, so let's add our next feature, wish list. Because you can't just keep track of what you have, you need to keep track of what you want. Takes a little while. So now we've got our wish list. I know it looks really similar, it's because it's basically the same code. So let's let's add some stuff. Tiny plants. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's really adorable. And then this one's for Victor, Rivendell. I don't know if you've seen this one, but it's so cool, but it's like 9,000 Rand or something. So I'm just like not getting it. Okay. So interesting and important to remember, these are two completely separate applications that live somewhere else. They have no context of each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move something from my wish list to my inventory without the inventory component actually making a get call. And this is what I'm talking about when I say sharing dependencies. So it's going to be pretty simple. I'll keep the network tab open so you see I don't lie. And there you go. Tiny plants is now in my inventory, no longer in my wish list. Yes, there was a call, but this was actually a post to update the backend. Okay, so now that I've got wish list and inventory, let's add our next feature, profile. Because, I mean, everyone forgets what they look like and what their name is, so every application has a profile feature. I'm just going to refresh. Okay. So my friends seem to have deployed to my apps while I was talking, so that's fun. Thank you. Appreciate it. So let's go to profile. Oh dear, it looks like it's not working. What a surprise. So this helps me talk about another part of micro frontends, which is compartmentalized points of failure. So even though the host application is working and the wish list and the inventory list, the profile application is down. So because only that app is down, everything else is running perfectly fine. So Clarice, please will you fix it? I really appreciate it if you can fix it. So I'm gonna obsessively hit retry. Okay, first time's charm. It works now. And that's the demo. Okay, I can skip through the next slides because the demo went fine. So I don't need to show you the videos. Okay, so now we have an application deployed by different people who can do what they want when they want, clearly. So you can chill, right? Such a simple setup. Okay, but what is the setup? How do we set up the remotes? First things first, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here. I'm making use of the Angular Architects Module Federation package. Now, this is a really useful package that ships with functions to use in your Angular code, to load remote modules at runtime, and also functions to use in your Webpack config, to share dependencies with some extras like versions. And even as a generator, so if you add it to your Angular application using ng-add, it will just add all the necessary files for you, and you have to make minor changes to the config once generated. I highly suggest going to read the series of blog articles by Manfred Steyer on their website. There's a QR code if you're fast. So what will our Webpack config look like for our remotes? Well, this is basically it. You need to provide a unique name for your application to prevent clashes between different modules trying to load with the same name. And you need to add the Module Federation plugin to the plugins array. Now, this plugin requires 4 things. The name of the application, for Angular, this needs to be the same name as the actual Angular application name. The file name, pretty self-explanatory, the file that you're going to be exporting your modules in. Exposes, and this is an object containing the components and modules you want to expose, so this is what that looks like. As you can see, we're exporting tile.component.ts as ./tile component, and similarly for the list module. The fourth thing you need to provide is an object containing the declaration of which dependencies you want to share amongst the applications. And this is what that looks like. For each dependency, you need to provide the package name, whether or not it's a singleton, whether or not a strict version is required, and what that required version is. The concept of shared dependencies is a core concept for Module Federation. So your application is deciding at runtime whether to use what is there or bring something else. So this is beneficial in the way that your remotes are actually much smaller because they're not being bundled with all of their dependencies. They're shipped as is. So you can think about it like this. When we're making our posters, we can all sit around the same table and one kid needs to get up and fetch the markers and we can all use those markers. So this is what we did when we moved a set from the wish list to the inventory. We shared the ngxs module, which is injected into both applications. So basically, it's shared as a singleton, so the wish list pushes the item to an observable, and inventory, who is listening to the observable from that singleton, gets updated. Right there and then, no get call. So funny story, when I was busy building this, it wasn't working for like 4 hours, and I was incredibly confused. Until I realized I hadn't declared as shared. So, don't forget to declare what you want to share. Now that we have set up the remotes, a simple setup. How do we set up the host? First thing, the Webpack config.js file. This looks mighty familiar to the one from our remotes. However, the host isn't exporting anything. You can have bidirectional modules that both import and export, but ours just doesn't do that. Our shared dependencies object, this one looks exactly the same as the other one. It doesn't have to be, this is unique per application, but these just happen to look the same. Cool, we know how to build it, we know how to share dependencies. Now, how do we pull them in? Now, how this application works is at startup, it pulls that app.config.json like I showed you guys, and that contains an array of menu items. These are then passed into menu objects, and these are then either appended to the router module's routes, or they're injected as dashboard tiles. So let's look at the inventory list declaration. It's got a router link, so the route to where that list is going to be. The remote entry file path, so basically just where to find that file. Remote name, that unique name that you gave to it in the webpack config.js file. Exposed module, the name that you assigned to the file that you're exporting. And the ng module name, the actual Angular module name. These modules are then loaded up at runtime and appended as lazy loaded routes to the router module config. The important function to note here is the load remote module function. This is a helper function that comes from the Angular Architects package. It essentially initializes the Webpack container and provides the sharing context. The tile declaration is pretty much exactly the same, but it gets loaded into the application in a different way. And this is how we load it up. We use the same helper function, load remote module, to fetch the code. We then programmatically append this to the DOM. This also allows us to display a page error in case it fails to load. But what if the modules fail to load? We saw that this is possible, so we saw that profile was down, and we can't just have our app broken, because that would suck. That goes against the entire point of it. So how you can do it is you can provide a fallback module with a catch statement here where you load it up, but once Angular resolves a route to a module, that is set in stone, basically, and you need to either refresh or reset the router, which you don't want to do. So instead, we're using a root guard, which tries to preload the module before routing to it. And if it fails, it routes to a different failure screen with a reference to what it tried to load in the first place, allowing us to continue on our merry way while the other team sorts out their problems. Important thing to note, the function, once the function returns the remote entry.js file, that file is cached in your browser. So that's why I only saw the updates once I refreshed the browser that Claris made to the application. Now, there are other frameworks that provide you with this. You don't just need to go with Angular architects. There's NX Module Federation, and they're really great if you're using an NX monorepo. They come with a bunch of built-in generators to generate static or dynamic module federation for Angular and for React. And it's really good if everything is in the monorepo. You got to do a little bit of extra work that's not directly obvious to share dependencies properly with applications outside of the monorepo. But it's still really great because it's a lot less code actually than the Angular Architects version. So what can go wrong? Cause. Yeah, I see nods. You know what I'm talking about. Are you trying to retrieve an image? Not sure that's allowed. Trying to make an API call? I don't know who you are. Is it the second Thursday of May? Not today, buddy. So say your remote uses a CDN to retrieve images. That CDN needs to allow for both the remote domain and the host domain. Otherwise, cause. And remember to allow your remote through your content security policy. This should technically be simple because we're all using the same enterprise domain, right? No one's using auto-generated CloudFront URLs, right? And when you see this, don't panic. I know it's weird, but all that it means is that your application is trying to use a component that's exported from a module, but not from the public API. This also sometimes covers itself as a cause error, just to screw up your day. And if anyone told you it's easy to manage versions across multiple teams, they lied. Version hell is real, and it's coming for you. So why should we not be implementing module federation everywhere? Well, for starters, if you're a 4-person team working on a small application, this is total overkill. This is a solution for multiple large distributed teams working on a large application. And remember, you're scaling out. So more applications means more pipelines to manage, more infrastructure to be in charge of, and more change request forms to fill out. So you really need to be solving an existing problem to try this out. Don't just do something because it's cool. After all, Cardboard isn't free. Now, the Module Federation plugin has grown beyond just Angular React Vue. It's got a lot. If you go there, you'll see there's even like Rust and WebAssembly and building React with Vite, and it's crazy. So anything you can think of, probably there. So definitely go have a look. That being said, if you have a big classroom, if you need to make a parent-friendly presentation, if you need to share resources, and if you have the budget for it, why not use Module Federation? You can have user convenience and developer experience. No compromises. So here we are. This was implemented on the project. I left it, so most likely they're going to go to production any day now. So what would be super nice is if you all went and tried this, because chances are you're going to take this to prod before I do. So it's 4 a.m. on a Sunday. Sadly, this is still the deployment hour. But now we only have 3 people on the call. You're getting ready to hit that button, take a sip of your coffee when Adam pipes up. Did you hear about the beta team? They couldn't deploy because of some stupid button issue. And then you click the button. Thank you. We got exactly 10 minutes for questions. No one? So you're all pros now, right? Epic. I did my job.